Hey guys, what's going on? Memes here. So, apparently, CNN has settled in the Covington kid lawsuit. Uh, I believe this one actually has a Mr. Nicholas Sandman. Uh, he is blatantly named and already out there in the public dialogue. I don't like naming children or anything. But apparently there was a settlement with CNN. So if we all remember the whole Covington kids fiasco and stuff, so basically you had some kids from Covington High School. They were down there for, I believe, one of the religious rallies, and then you also had, and at the same time going on, an indigenous rally. And then Mr. Nathan Phillips basically, upon seeing what we have based upon our accounts, there was some hubbub going on with a group known as the Black Hebrew Israelis, and basically there was some shouting matches, there was some racial profanity, and then according to Mr. Phillips, he was attempting to defuse the tensions by going and basically playing on his drum in between these different groups. That's what he said, according to him, to defuse these tensions. I've heard different allegations against Mr. Phillips. He still did serve in the armed forces during the Vietnam era as well. I believe he helped repair HVAC and or refrigerators at the time. Here's the thing. It all depends on what you're going to assume. Are we going to assume malice? Are we going to assume benevolence? That's what it ultimately comes down to. So as we can see here, with that little iconic photo, the clip went around. When you initially saw it, looks like, oh, you get this young kiddo in a MAGA hat there, and he's smirking there, and then with like a lot of the way it was being portrayed, it looks like he was just kind of getting in this face of this elderly Native American gentleman. Oh, dude, people were tearing him a new one and stuff. But upon actually going back and checking the 2 hours so footage again, I haven't watched all of it myself, but from what I've seen, there was some escalation, something happened, this action was done, and then Mr. Sandman, the young gentleman here, was standing there and he was smiling. It all almost kind of depends on how you phrase it, right? It's like if you pitch this photo as youth MAGA hat wearing Trump supporter smirks as he stands in the way of Native American elder, it's like, oh, kid seems like an asshole, right? But if you pitch it more along the line of Covington Catholic youth smiles as Native American performs ancestral dance. And what's wrong with that? You're appreciating the culture. But let's get in on what actually happened. So what ends up happening is the attorney ends up filing a number of suits. The initial suits were dismissed. There was some refinement there because this is also a free speech thing, because we're also not supposed to infringe upon the press. The question is, what ends up happening? And as far as I remember from the initial review, it was declared that what those periodicals and different agencies were covering was their opinion, which opinion is protected. But the issue we run into is if you're passing stuff off as hard news and you're giving your opinion, that's where I think we need some clarification, because normally you'd have an op-ed, kind of like I do here, just because even if I am presenting all facts, it's like, I'm a human being just like everyone else. I'll have all my own biases and stuff like that, so I realize I'm giving my opinion. I think it also helps cover your butt. But let's get into this. So we have here from Fox News, CNN settlement with Covington student Nick Sandman, a win for the little guy, experts say. So let's get into this. So CNN's decision to settle a multi-million-dollar defamation lawsuit filed by Covington Catholic High School student Nick Sandman is a big victory for the little guy, Cornell Law School professor William A. Jacobson told Fox News. It represents a rare example of a little guy being able to stand up to a behemoth media. One Jacobson, the founder of the law blog Legal Insurrection and former senior editor of the Harvard International Law Journal. If not for the aggressive and presumably contingent fee, the representation by famed attorney Lynn Wood, and the result may have been different, he added. Well, that's the thing. Gain national attention. Folks don't like seeing anybody get rolled over, and that's the thing, especially when we're talking about kids. It's like, I don't really care what side of the political spectrum folks are on. A 16-year-old kid is a 16-year-old kid. I don't know. I realize even when I was growing up, it never really seemed to be that way. You always see folks end up charged with things. So what's the point of being a kid? Well, to be fair, I think Toys R Us went out of business. So I guess we don't have places where kids can be kids anymore. But I digress. Again, that's in my opinion, and a little bit of hyperbole. So, but what ended up happening? Okay, there's a settlement. There's a $275 million lawsuit. I highly doubt that Nick Sandman was paid out $275 million. Because here's the thing. And again, I'm not an attorney. My father, Mr. Memes, was the attorney. But just based upon my general recollection of just observing as an American, is typically you put a high number out there. You usually don't get. We still remember the instance of what was it? The judge that sued for like $50-something million because some laundromat like ruined his pants or something. It's like that ended up. I believe it was dismissed. But here's the thing. You put a high number out there, and then since it was settled, it doesn't mean that there was a ruling against CNN. That's the thing. CNN ended up judging that it was within their best interest to not go there, because you also avoid discovery. What happens in discovery? Guess what? You get to see all those internal communications and stuff. And especially if folks are, let's say, behind the scenes, a bit more expressive, like they may use more passion and stuff than they normally would when they're on the air or dealing with a lot of other folks out here in the public, that's probably not a good look. So they settled. We have no idea how much it was, because even according to Snopes over here, $275 million. Yes, they did settle, and upon reaching out to attorneys and everything, the details are not to be made public. That's the thing. They're signing it, and whatever is paid, you don't want anyone to violate that NDA, because now, okay, one, you might not get your money. Two, you might be opening yourself up to another potential lawsuit as well. I have no idea how much it is. If I was just gonna just judge how many M&Ms are in that that jar right there, I'd say somewhere between $400,000 to $800,000 maybe. I could be completely wrong. But Mr. Sandman also and his legal team have a number of other individuals that they're looking at following up with. I believe they did redo their settlement with, where was this? Oh, where is it? Yep, they're going to be going after ABC, CBS, The Guardian, The Huffington Post, NPR, Slate, The Hill, and Gannett, which owns the Cincinnati Enquirer, as well as miscellaneous other small media outlets, according to McMurtry. Apologies if I butchered your name. Several lawsuits against Washington Post and NBC had already been filed, he added. Okay, so that's the thing. You bring a case, you show these facts, rather than going through a long drawn out and what CNN, I believe, even acknowledged could be a very unpredictable way. Excuse me, I think that was actually an outside comment there. See, we try to be accurate. But the thing is, okay, is this an infringement upon free speech? My big thing is, I want to see what ends up happening, because if we could avoid a lot of this, because it was an opinion piece, and you had a journalist straight up say, this is what I see here. These are my concerns with this. I am also drawing upon other things going on in society, that this is what I'm seeing. At least you're clarifying it's your opinion. If you go straight out and start, I believe somebody had tweeted, quote unquote, isn't this the most punchable face you've ever seen, or something along those lines? That seems like a freaking problem. If anything, I don't know, is that a call to violence? It's starting to sound that way. That's not cool, man. That's not cool. And I believe said individual is ratioed. Okay, so let's pop over to USA Today, because yeah, I like to mix the sources up a little bit as well. And even my history teacher from back in the day, he always said, go to USA Today. Hey, people may think they're biased, but you know what? Nobody's perfect. So let's go on here. CNN confirms a settlement has been reached with Covington Catholic student Nick Sandman. This is Cameron Knight from the Cincinnati Enquirer. All right. Nope. No, we don't need you right now. Thank you. Boom, boom. No! Oh, the internet of ads and things. All right, CNN has reached a settlement with Nick Sandman. A Northern Kentucky high school student had sued the news outlet saying it defamed him. The CNN spokesperson confirmed Tuesday with the Inquirer this settlement has been reached. Again, folks have reached out to the different attorneys. Of course, they're not going to disclose anything because then I don't think they'd be really great attorneys at that point if they're signing things that say they're not going to talk about it, and they talk about it. But going on, yep, they're recounting the events over there, and let's actually just get to the very close there. All right, so just this statement here I want to cover over on this paragraph. So the salmon lawsuit against CNN seeking $275 million was filed in March and stated CNN brought down the full force of its corporate power, influence, and wealth on Sandman by falsely attacking, vilifying, and bullying him despite the fact that he was a minor child. And this is the other thing, because if you're going to report on something, it's, again, if you're reporting, you don't necessarily want to harm, it's just you have to try to balance it out with, is this a story? Is this actually an important issue that needs to be highlighted? And what is the potential negative effect? And it's not easy. And you know what? Some stories get passed over. Some folks sit on some stories, and sometimes it just takes a particular event to just really just kind of let that come to light. In this case, you're talking about a kid. I don't care what side of the aisle it's on. It's a kid. You're going around and introducing this person to the world, having their breakout moment being, look at this asshole that's basically hating on a Native American elder. That stirs something up in people because I think the vast majority of Americans, that makes them feel sick to your stomach. Here's the thing, if you have a 20-second clip out of context, and if we do actually have the ability to try to find other footage before that, upwards of a 2-hour actual video, and you go through, very often, you might not always agree with a person's actions, but at least if you hear their story, you kind of get the gist of where you're coming from. Do I necessarily think this dude was being malice? I have no idea in either case. I can't tell what's in another person's head nor heart. What I can do is try to identify different patterns. And here's the thing, it's just, did we jump on this because that seemed to fit a certain narrative? Oh, because this kid is wearing a red hat, we're going to paint them to be the second coming of Lucifer. That don't seem fair. And even if somebody goes up there and says a whole bunch of things that you disagree with, guess what? It doesn't necessarily mean they're the second coming of Lucifer. Ay, mujitat. But alright, I've rambled on enough on this one. All I know is this is going to shape the free speech landscape. The best thing I can hope for without quashing anyone's ability to speak is at least the ability to properly identify hard, factual-based news from opinion. Because, I mean, if it seems like we're in a world of fake news, then who knows what to believe. But, hey, thanks for everybody for coming by. Peace out, everybody.